Is he our only audience?
It says we
That's amazing.
have 4 people and or 22 people. Uh, so
I think the four are probably the three of us plus Ryan French.
oh, okay, okay. Well, I don't know if any of this is recording, and I don't know if anyone is listening, but let's get started. I think Twitch should save this somewhere. Uh,
All right.
so
He says it's good now.
okay, cool. Well, sorry for all the technical issues, everyone, but welcome. Thanks for joining. Right now, we have myself, Brad Iyer, along with Reed Smith and Matt Caruli. So,
Hello.
yeah, say hi, everybody.
Yes.
Welcome, welcome.
Gre-
Uh,
greetings, travelers.
Greetings.
So
Yes.
I just want to say that just like everything that goes on with these cards, you can just blame me for the technical difficulties. I can handle it.
We will, Matthew. We will.
We'll get to that. But anyway, I basically I wanted to sort of I was hoping to have maybe a few more people, sort of a larger round table, but instead this will be more of a I guess fireside chat, so to speak. Just sort of discussing the new cards. There's some different perspectives here. Matt being the lead designer, Reed being top level professional Star Wars CCG player, and me just sort of being a nobody. Have some different thoughts on some of the cards. Just discuss, maybe some decks they slot into or some new decks they open up. In addition to that, maybe especially with Matt, some thoughts behind, the cards and everything, um, and that type of stuff. So, uh, hmm. So that's kind of the plan. I guess it says this is buffering just constantly, so that's not the greatest, but anyway, uh, so with that, my thought was we'll sort of just go straight down the list here that Matt posted, if that's all right with everyone. So
Oh yeah. I mean, totally. You basically just want to do it like card by card.
yeah, I think I mean, if some of the cards certainly work together, so I mean, we can kind of, especially some of the rebel cards and stuff, can kind of lump, all those in if we're talking about sort of their interactions with each other. But so basically, card number one is this new Boba Fett. Um, just it pilot three adds a destiny with Vader, or if piloting Slave One. Probably the real kicker, though, the good line of text in my view is this: once per game, if a battle just initiated here, may exchange a card in hand with a card in the reserve deck, and then reshuffle. Um, that part seems very powerful to me. Uh, getting any card
No
out of
doubt
the
about
deck.
it. I mean, we're kind of by going in order and starting off with the Boba Fett, we're kind of burying the lead a little bit. I mean, he's clearly the top card in the set for either side, and like looking at it from my perspective and proofing, this was one of the last cards that we saw in proofing. And for a while, I was just like, because Matt and the D&D side of things, they release they release spoilers to us on their own schedule whenever they're ready, comfortable enough with a card that they want to started getting proofed is when we'll get it. And so, like I said, this was one of the last ones to come down the pipeline into proofing. And until it was coming down, I was like, man, I just like I want something more from this set. And then when the Boba Fett came out, I was like, oh, that's what I wanted.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I think that card's clearly going to see that card's going to see play in just about any deck that can play it. I think maybe you should slap an Imperial symbol on there just so the entanglements can play it too.
Well, we wanted to make a Boba Fett that was strong enough to sometimes replace the Boba Fett bounty hunter, but not someone who's just completely broken like we've seen some cards in Legacy. So I think that's kind of indicative with the once per game function, so you can't just do that all the time. So he does have a very good use, especially in CCT. We had a lot of games in testing with him in CCT Flip, which was nice because you could use his blaster that came out a couple sets ago, get him to the audience chamber to flip, and he could just sit there alone by himself and be safe because you can always threaten the upload of a stunning leader or a hidden weapons or something like that. And he's shown to be pretty strong there. And like Reed was saying, he kind of slots into anything that lets you play him. And we were really happy with how he tested, and the playtesters responded very well with him. They all liked him, so we were pretty happy with how he came out.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes replaces BFBH. He's going to replace BFBH all the time because, like, let's face it, BFBH, believe it or not, you know, people like to complain about, oh my gosh, he's so overpowered, maintenance cost. But he's not, like, he's really not all that great in the current meta. You look at deck lists, people don't play him. He's too expensive. He's too high risk and high cost and too low reward. When you finally do get him, like, he needs to get around so many things. He needs to get around barrier. He needs to get around destiny limiting. He needs to be with the right people, you know, with the right other characters so that he can add his destinies. And then when you draw those destinies, they better be good ones. Or, again, he's still just not doing as much for you. This vet, the new one, numbers-wise, works out a lot better. The deploy, he gets a nice little deploy discount on his ship, which is a lot of times where he's going to be going. And he works with, he works with just so many different characters. Obviously, he works specifically with Vader, but once he's on a ship, he works with anybody that, or anything that provides ability. So, like, for instance, our buddy Sean, who got back into the game, he was looking at the new and returning players' cards to collect, and on that list of cards to collect is the Dark Spiral. And I was about to tell him, dude, you don't need the Dark Spiral. Nobody plays that. But now the Dark Spiral is the type of card where if you have 2 force saves, you pick it up with Boba Fett at the start of the battle, who's flying as Slave 1. You react with it, and now you go from 1 draw up to 2, and a lot more power and forfeit fodder also.
Yeah, it's definitely, you know, one thing I like is you know, when he's piloting, he adds the destiny instead of just drawing if unable to otherwise. So he will get 2 a lot of the times if you have someone else up there with him. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I guess I'll say when I first saw the card, I was not thinking maybe along the lines of you all with you know, stunning leader or you know, the dark side spiral, sort of reacting to a battle in either arena. I was, you know, more along the lines of, you know, just in some ways he's kind of like a force push. I mean, you have to get him into a battle, but it allows you to you know, have some specific answers that are maybe, you know, difficult to pull or whatever, and gives you another out, you know, to get those. Which
You're totally right. You're totally right, Brad. And once you start playing games with the card, you'll realize that sometimes you do use them to pull like a key cog or a setup piece. You're not going to necessarily always use them to pull a card that you'll play in that same battle. Like, and some of the games that I've fishbowled already with this card, I found myself like using them to pick up like an EPP mold that I plan to use on the next turn. And of course, another subtle, like, powerful thing that he does then is that if you are picking out a low destiny card, like, I mean, let's say it's a battle that happens on your turn and you only have 5 to 10 cards ish in your reserve deck. You have a low amount of cards in your reserve deck. If the card that you're swapping from hand is a high destiny, which it probably is going to be, and the card that you're taking is a low destiny, then you're also doing yourself a favor of improving the destinies that you'll draw in that battle that you just initiated.
right, yeah, or if it's you know, you know, you're playing Hunt Down and you have extra Visages in hand or something that you don't really need, putting that 7 back or whatever can be pretty powerful. So is the thought, and I mean, people will sort of experiment with these cards and stuff, is the thought, you know, you play 1 or 2 copies of him in a deck, or did anyone try, you know, like a CCT starting Boba Fett? I don't, because you don't have any pull like the IG-88 does, I don't know, besides the once per game, of course, I don't know how strong that would be. Did anyone have any thoughts on that, I guess?
Yeah, so there were some testing games with any methods necessary with this Fett and his gun, and they would get him over to the audience chamber, and then they'd use the audience chamber stacks to pull Duro, who could pull IG-88. So it's a little long-winded, but it gets you the benefit of flipping the objective, so you get the retrieval every turn. You could also be able to move right over to the dungeon whenever you wanted to retrieve 2 more. So it does give you some other options, and it's kind of like a different path with the deck. It might be a little slower setup than IG-88, and I think it would be a different type of deck than the IG-88 decks would be, but it's certainly an option, and I think players will probably try to do that. I know a lot of players have been wanting to do that, at least, just to make a CCT flip deck more viable.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, that seems like maybe an okay option against like a hidden base quads deck, getting that extra retrieval. It slows you down maybe a turn there, but gives you some more retrieval in that type of game, and then you can still have IG to try to set up the various ways to interact with them in space, as far as that goes. But yeah, this card, I think I'm in agreement with Reed. This is kind of probably the marquee card of the set. Was this a player card, or was this actually from design? I don't know if we can say that.
No, sure, I don't mind saying it. It was a collaboration of design and development card, and we've been wanting to get Boba Fett back into the game in a big way that wasn't Maintenance Fett. And so we've been talking about this for a while, and it was about time we finally did this, because everyone's wanted a virtual Cloud City Boba Fett for a while, just because of how good the card looks. So we finally got around to doing this here in set 6, and we're all really happy with it.
Yeah,
that's another great thing. That's another great thing about this card in general, is that it's going to return the persona of Boba Fett to tournament tables. I mean, he's obviously a super iconic character. People get that stupid Mandalorian thing tattooed on their skin. That's how crazy people are about Boba Fett, and it's kind of a shame that ever since the reset, there hasn't really been a legit. Because like I talked about earlier, DFPH just doesn't cut it. Like he's just not like. He's not a card you can really put in a whole lot of decks and have him be impactful for you, but this card is, and so now people are finally going to be playing with Boba Fett again.
Yeah, there's another card in this set too that'll work with this as well. So it's pretty cool to make Boba Fett great again. All right.
Yeah, make him great again. Yeah, and I think the Cloud City Boba Fett itself, sort of the underlying card, is when you think of just sort of the iconic cards, in Star Wars CCG. It's one of them, along with Premier Vader, Jedi Luke, probably sort of from the later sets. So having that, I assume this is probably just a half slip, virtual text. Having that actual Cloud City card on the table is good. But because it's Cloud City, it's very there's a lot of availability there. One of the most printed sets, probably right after Jabba's Palace, maybe White Border Premier. So it won't. It's an
there's foil version too.
Oh right, yeah. There's foil version as well. So it's a very inexpensive way to get a hold of a powerful main. As far as that goes, definitely.
And it'll definitely be a foil base slip for people who want if PC makes, which I'm sure the PC will.
Yeah, I'm sure that's down the road. And another cool thing is that because he's once per game, he's not really a card you're going to want to play 4 times in a deck like you would in an LSJK, for instance. So, even though it's rare, people always say like you should virtualize main characters on commons. In this case, it's not someone you're going to play more than 2 times in a deck, most likely.
Right. Yeah. So, very, very cool. I guess because you sort of mentioned it, and I think I see where we'll jump down to that card that interacts with him, the any methods necessary, if that's all right. If we're sort of set our piece on Fett himself, so any methods necessary. Text, if Jodo cast or your Fett was just targeted by a weapon, cancel the targeting, place the weapon unless a permanent weapon in owner's use pile, or take into hand or deploy from reserve deck as a react any of the following cards: Binders, Jetpack, Mandalorian Armor, or a Blaster Rifle. So, Matt, maybe do you want to start this one off? Just sort of some of the thoughts behind it.
Sure. So this was actually a player card, but I can still talk about a lot of what went into it and what impact it's going to have. The second half, first of all, where you upload or download a card, I think is probably safe to say it's mostly fun Fred. Most people aren't going to be playing Binders, Jetpack, or Mando Armor. Blaster Rifle use might get some usage out of that, to play Fett's Rifle or anything else that you might be playing. And blaster rifles are pretty popular these days. But the first part, what I like about it so much is that just the threat of this card being in makes them reconsider targeting Boba Fett. So it's always been like, man, how do we protect Boba Fett? How do we keep him alive? And just the threat of this card, I think, could lead a lot of people to be like, you know what, I'm not going to target Fett. I'm just going to target, someone else instead and try to take him out and maybe we can survive another battle.
Yeah, I mean that, placing the weapon in the use pile, it's one thing against Jedi Luke who can get the saber out again, but against Mace who sort of has some built-in text against Fett's or whatever, it's just a huge blowout because if they target Fett with the first shot, that not only does their first shot get canceled, but then they don't have the weapon for their second shot.
Well, I think that, like what Matt's talking about, now that this card exists, people aren't going to target Jodicaster or Fett with the first swing of Mace. That's just a simple adjustment that the players will make so that they don't end up boning themselves and leaving themselves without the second swing.
There are some situations I could see where they do want to target him on the second swing, and if they want to protect him, and Mace is, for instance, going to die that battle, at least they get his saber back in life force.
Yep. It could do that for you, especially because if you have your second Mace, or if you have, a Jedi Lev, or you're going to use Obi-Wan to get Mace back or whatever, then your saber's back in the use pile for the next turn.
So in
you mentioned Jedi Lev, but I'm thinking maybe Weapon Lev as well, where, if this is put in use pile, maybe people start playing a Weapon Lev to get it right back and deploy it again next turn.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it sounds like in some ways this is a card that potentially sort of depending on how the interactions go, sort of rewards either player for kind of paying attention to what's gone to the use pile. Does it look like they maybe have another Mace that type of thing, different stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely think this is a pretty interesting card. Blaster rifles. There's Boba Fett's blaster rifle. Are there other? There's like the First Order blaster rifle. That's pretty good too, isn't it?
Check and see if that's a rifle.
Maybe it's not.
I didn't think that card was any good after they nerfed it.
Yeah, they did change it.
It hasn't seen play, that's for sure, since that. There's Aura's blaster rifle, but most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, you're not going to want to deploy that anyway. But there's the Battle Droid blaster rifles as well, which I don't know if you'd want to play a 4 Destiny card to pull a 6 Destiny card, 8 Destiny card in some cases. Yeah, the First Order one is a rifle as well, so you could deploy those from deck. Tough to say how much synergy you'll get playing this Fett helper in a deck with First Order troopers. I'm not sure if there will be a good use case for that, but it's interesting to have the option. I know a lot of times when you're playing the Fett with the Boba Fett's rifle, you're going to use any methods necessary, but you could use, if you don't, then you can use Boba Fett's blaster rifle to pull it with this.
Matt, and I don't know if this came up at all. Was there ever any discussion of making this work in space? If Jango or Boba was piloting the Slave One to stop a gun targeting their ship. I don't know if that just didn't come up or if it did, but it was decided not to for balance or text limitation or any number of reasons.
No, it didn't come up actually, and I think if it had, they probably would have had no problem at all putting that on there. It just didn't come up.
Okay. Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Only the light side is allowed to have ways to get around starship weapons.
Oh, is that a that?
That's not for the dark side to have.
Okay, that must have been a design rule that got in place after my time behind the scenes.
It's somewhere.
I think Reed's being somewhat facetious based on history, but
based on the fact that we have a Theron net and we no longer have Gala Yeens and HB quads is a thing.
There are plans to make a mirror for Theron net. It hasn't happened yet. So Theron net was a player card, and so we just didn't. It wasn't one of those design ideas where we're like, hey, let's put this in for each side. But now that Theronet's been released, there has been talk of making a mirror for it. So that's very possible. Seeing the
I
new.
wonder what else a Theranet mirror would potentially blow out, because Theranet himself blows out weapons and also blows out Maul. So what would a mirror blow out? It would blow out weapons, and then it would have to blow out something else for the light side that they do in space. Who knows?
Plus Theronet's a smuggler, so the helper would have to be like an ISB or a Black Sun agent, just so it has a trait and helps some deck, whether the deck needs the help or not.
The tribal.
Yeah. Yeah, Gila Yeens, what a card. That was one of my favorite cards.
Yeah, the card was amazing. And he was good on ground, too.
Yeah, he was sick. But alright, so I guess, unless either of you have any more thoughts on the sort of Boba Fett, any methods necessary, either of those, then probably we'll go ahead and jump sort of back up the list to the Death Trooper, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll so basically he's a stormtrooper, three dot unique. While you have no other trooper here except Death Troopers, adds a battle destiny at same side as Krennic, Tarkin, or Thrawn. May place this character in use pile, cancel a just drawn weapon destiny targeting your leader here. So, I guess maybe my thoughts on this. Well, a couple things sort of first glance. Krennic, sort of as mentioned in the announcement, was in the set, ended up getting pulled kind of at the last minute for some reasons. So he will come out at some point. That said, Tarkin is still played, the virtual Grand Moff Tarkin, still played quite a bit. There's the ISB Tarkin also. Thrawn, usually Thrawn's going to end up in space. I don't know. I'm guessing that Thrawn on there is probably, maybe he had some interaction with them. I know he was added to the Rebel show or something like that. In a second, Matt, maybe you can, maybe you know the backstory there. I guess the line that seems, I mean, the adding a Destiny really with Tarkin, for the most part, is pretty good. But the putting him in the use pile to cancel a Destiny targeting your leader, that's quite good. It obviously works with Tarkin and Thrawn. I assume Krennic will be a leader when he comes out, but also other leaders of note: Emperor Palpatine, Lord Vader, and even it even works with alien leaders. Jabba the Hutt, I think, is a leader. Folks like that. So this one definitely seems interesting. The fact that it's a non-unique trooper as opposed to someone like gosh, I can't think of the guy, but there's like a dark side alien who sort of does the same type of thing. But the trooper interaction and the fact that he's an Imperial may make this one more likely to see some play. Reed, any thoughts?
Are you thinking of the Nerf bat guy, Gamal Weirnick?
Yeah, Gamal Weirnick. Yes, what a guy.
Is that what he does? Basically the same thing.
I think so.
I think Gamal says if he was just hit and you place him in use pile and your other aliens can't be targeted with a weapon with him.
Yeah, your other characters present can't be targeted. Yeah, pretty good. Well, I mean, for this Death Trooper, this was another card that came down the pipeline a little later on in the process, and it kind of made me tilt my head a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay, here's a card I can see some people trying out and trying to use, especially because a lot of people have been playing that other trooper that's off the full scale, or whatever that's called. What is that called? The Stormtrooper Patrol. Yeah, a lot of people have been playing that, and of course, First Order troopers, like in decks like Johnny Chu's Dark Deal. So these little these little piddly non-unique utility characters certainly have found their way into decks, and especially with strategic reserves, you can slap them on there to cancel a force drain. So it's a card to keep an eye on. I don't particularly have any plans for this card. I think it probably could have gotten away with it being a little bit like one higher Destiny. Like I think a Destiny 3, just like the Patrol. The Patrol's a 3, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really strong card as a 3, though, I think. And we were pretty careful about the numbers on this card. because it was non-unique and because troopers already have so many other helpers.
Yeah, I think it shows that you were so good, like, because it's deployed, like the deploy to forfeit ratio, and there's no way in which it's going to get its forfeit buff at all, is there? And a lot of times these smaller, weaker characters end up forfeit 0 anyway. But like I think like deploy 3 forfeit 4 is real chunky, and like I would have just like one better, higher number somewhere, like and really in the Destiny is where I would have wanted it. I think to make it a Destiny 3. Because you can't lower the deploy to 2. That would be way too cheap. And an extra forfeit probably wouldn't have gotten you too far. So that's probably where I would have gone with that. But like looking at it from my strictly competitive perspective, I'm looking at this card as like a preloaded force field, basically, like Bradley was talking about, using it along with Emperor Palpatine or Lord Vader to protect him from a weapon destiny, and that's interesting. You have to guard against something like a Clash of Sabers, which sees moderate play. You have to guard against some sort of exclusion for the big guy and a beat down small guy, or you could just hang on your dick, whatever. But if you have Lord Vader out with a saber, I'm your father, draining for 2, 3, whatever, and you put this guy next to him, that's just another break in the wall that the opponent's got to tear down if they want to deal with that big drain.
So I can talk about some of the background, the design, and stuff like this. This was another player card, and as Brad mentioned, we did have plans for Krennic, and we took him out. We want to make sure we get Krennic right. We had a version of him early on, and we tested him quite a bit, and we couldn't quite find the right balance for him. But Krennic will show up in the next set. There's already a couple good playable Tarkins right now, and Brad also mentioned Star Wars Rebels featuring Grand Admiral Thrawn. So I do have some aspirations to make another Thrawn who is actually stronger on the ground, not necessarily like a Space Admiral type Thrawn, but more of a, strategic Thrawn for the ground, who's also pretty powerful, and maybe get people to consider playing him on the ground with these Death Troopers. But other than that, we were careful not to have this be something that can stack an IE with the current Admiral's orders and make sure Warriors deploy -1. I think he'll still get use. He's got similar text to the Twanel Villager that we made for Light Side in set 4. And, just all the trooper synergies, Wraithel, making them Destiny +2, perhaps. Trooper Assault, putting them at Power 5. So there's a lot of things that can go with it. And we wanted to, we were happy that when the player wanted to make a Rogue One card, because anytime we can get player creators to make cards for the new movies instead of remaking some of the original trilogy cards, we're very happy about that. It kind of fills out the universe a little bit more for us too, and it's pretty cool when players do that.
I prefer when players make
hopefully
a version of Leia.
Sorry, say it again.
I like when player creators make the 8th version of Leia. I think that adds more.
There's a lot of Leias in the game right now, and there could possibly be an Episode 7 Leia coming out in a little bit this year too.
You know what there won't be? Episode 8 Leia. Too soon?
Too soon, Bradley.
Too soon? Sorry.
Too soon.
Anyway, go ahead, Matt. You had some really interesting comments. Sorry to start trolling.
No, it's all right. The Thrawn is something that I'm really eager to try to get some testing on that and see if we can get a new Thrawn in there, because everyone was so excited when he came back to Star Wars Rebels. It confirmed him back as being canon, one of people's favorite characters. And I believe near the end of the last season, little spoiler tag here, he did show up with a Death Trooper, so that's pretty cool as well. Worked out, I think, nicely the way that this card came down with synergy with Death Troopers and Thrawn. So that's about it. That's all I think I have to say on it. Look forward to a Krennic and maybe a Thrawn this year. That'll work with this guy too.
Yeah, just sort of one last thought before we move on here. Just whenever I see new cards, there's kind of always two things I look at. One is what existing decks do they slot into, and two, what new decks do they maybe open up. With this one, just sort of on the first point, a deck to slot into. I think of the Hunt Down deck that Justin Desai used at the NPC that had Lord Vader on the ground and Thrawn in space. One of these guys maybe finds a spot there, and against a mains deck, you put him on the ground as a force field. Against a deck that you're trying to battle in space, you can put him with Thrawn on the Chimera and add another Destiny. So there is, even though it's a trooper, not a pilot or anything, there is a little bit of versatility there, where it might be more of
Well,
an
I should
infusion.
interrupt you there, Brad. Sorry, he only adds a battle
Oh,
sting at
same site.
same site,
Yeah, never
so it would
mind.
not work in Chimera.
Okay, disregard. We'll edit out that 15 seconds there.
No, I mean your point's not entirely invalid if you don't have to use your Thrawn on in space, which you might not have to in certain matchups, or if you're just in a spot where you're better off using him on the ground. It's still a totally valid point. Like if getting an extra battle destiny in a battle at a site is going to be worth it to slap your Thrawn and Dispo down, then that might be your play.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I thought you mentioned Huntdown is a great example of a possible deck to play this guy in. I could see people playing Huntdown with the Lord Vader and some of these Death Troopers, and you never even know. Maybe they start putting like a Trooper Assault and their Dark Shadow presence in Huntdown.
yeah, I guess like Thrawn and a Death Trooper would be it'd be 7 cost or whatever, but that'd be a good squad to go. If they put a Corran Horn at your Holo Theater or something, and you have a couple 6s tracked or whatever, you go try to knock him off the site, redeploy Visage, and maybe overflow him for a little bit, something like that. You're always looking for extra.
Even entanglements, if you end up like in entanglements with Thrawn piloting the Devastator, maybe there were some early space battles and you kicked your opponent off the system, and now Thrawn's just up there, and eventually he's going to end up getting shuttled down, probably. Now this gives him a little bit more strength when he's on the ground, and you can slap on one of the empty ATSTs, one of the ones with 2 slots. You can slap Thrawn as a pilot and have the trooper ride along. So now you have a reacting out of battle destiny. You're really reacting to battle destiny anywhere you want.
Yeah, that's a good thought as well. All right. Well, interesting that we sort of ended that one on talking combat vehicles a little bit, because the next card up, Veers V, certainly is going to slot into some decks that do use combat vehicles. Generally, probably the AT-ATs as opposed to the AT-STs, but yeah, this card it does a lot of stuff. He's an ISB agent, which is interesting. You can pull him with some cards, and then he downloads a variety of things depending on kind of what you're trying to do. Reed, your thoughts?
Oh, sorry, I was tabbed out.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. As far as this guy being an ISB agent, I think it's largely irrelevant. I think the ISB is still going to want to play the big bad general for its purposes. That deck, at least the mainstream version of it right now, which is Ryan Jellison's, I believe, has 3 or 4 ATS or AT-ATs in it, and that guy's just simply better. That deck already has enough ISB agents. It doesn't need another random ISB agent that pretty much does nothing for ISB. So this card is really, it looks more like a Hoth CRV style helper to me than anything else. And I think we've already, somebody already made a comment about this on the forums, and it pretty much echoed my sentiments exactly. When I saw this card, I was like, I don't understand. What are we trying to do with this card? Is it trying to be high speed? Is it trying to be Hoth CRV? Hoth CRV is a deck with all its own problems, and that's a deck that's always on my radar. I'm always trying to see, can I get it to work? And it's always got issues one way or the other. One of the issues is speed, and even this guy, this white horde Veers, with his once per game pool, it just doesn't accelerate the deck. It doesn't do what it needs to do, and you're sacrificing something huge. You're sacrificing General Veers.
So in playtesting, we saw most of the time, obviously Reed said the 2 decks that this is going to see play, and it's not going to see play, I don't think, outside of ISB and Hoth CRV. He was tested in both of those. In ISB, I feel like he does have a place. If you're playing with Imperial Arrest Order, then you can get out the Hoth Docking Bay, get this guy there with an Imperial Command, and he can get you either the 3rd marker, if you want to play that, or even the 5th marker, which is a 2-0 site. And then in off CRV, you can also use him to get out the mountains if you like, or if you happen to get dealt with the mountains, you can get another AT-AT out. So, he does have use. At first, we thought, well, is anyone really going to take into hand prepare for a surge attack with this, or is it always going to be a walker or a marker site? But he actually got use with that as well. So it's really, I think, tough to specifically gauge the power level that this card is going to be. I think some people thought it was kind of underwhelming because of the opportunity cost of General Veers V, but others thought that it was pretty strong just to be able to pull a 2-0 site in ISB or a walker or the mountains in Hoth CRV. So I think what we're going for with a guy like this is a card choice where you think like, yeah, I could see myself running this over Veers sometimes, or in more likelihood, what a lot of people did was to run this and General Veers. So whenever this guy did his job and pulls your card and then inevitably died, you would get General Veers out and you'd still have his strength for later in the game.
Okay, yeah, I was actually just gonna. I was gonna ask if anyone thought about that, using this guy just for the setup. So it sounds like that was something that folks tried out. So that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it looks like he'll definitely have a place, in those Hoth decks. I don't know if he fixes all the issues, probably not, but I'm sure he helps to some extent. And then with ISB, it just sort of depends on the build and kind of what direction you're going with some of that stuff. So an interesting card though. The Hoth decks sort of in general, I think of all sort of the PC era decks, that's the one that's gone, been changed sort of constantly, and it's still some decks, we wipe out completely, but that one, it's always been around in some form, but it's just been weakened at various points and everything. But I think it's an interesting deck type to have in the format because it protecting guys and walkers, doing some ping at non-battlegrounds and stuff is just a different thing that light side decks have to prepare for. It always, because of those elements, those types of decks always sort of toe that line between is this strong versus is it too good? So then sometimes there's a move to make it much less powerful. So this I think is a good card to sort of reach maybe a balance sort of with that. But it's really all I have on this card. Anyone else have any other thoughts? Anything they want to add for this one?
Well, now that you mentioned decks from the past, EC decks from the past, if and when we were to ever bring back or blow up the main power generators deck, which may never happen, probably doesn't need to happen, it looks to me this card at least would be a linchpin in a deck like that, seemingly. A deck like that, if we were to bring it back, we'd pretty much have to build it around this card, I think, since its once per game pool would be instrumental to the setup.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think.
So just.
Yeah, I think.
Like theory crafting something for the future, but like I said, that deck doesn't even need to come back. We could probably go the rest of all time without ever putting a blow up the main power generators deck back in the game. But if it does come back, then we'll just have to account for this guy that pulls a site and or a vehicle.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. Well, moving right along. Next card, Shizor's Bounty, a immediate effect. Use 1 force to deploy on an opponent's just deployed character at same site as a Black Sun agent. Character may not battle this turn. If character is about to leave the table or be captured, peek at opponent's hand, retrieve 1 force, and lose the immediate effect. So, I mean, just sort of generally, this is a pretty reasonable helper for Black Sun. It's essentially a barrier that's immune to sense, immune to all the barrier cancelers. It's not immune to control, So that's maybe something to keep in mind. Also, the character can't battle this turn, but they can move away, so you can't set up a counter beatdown. In terms of the peek at opponent's hand, retrieve a force type of thing, the peeking at the hand kind of goes with the theme of Black Sun, some of the sort of manipulation type stuff. Although usually it's on their own deck and everything. Um, but I think the main point here is just basically a barrier that's more reliable, especially you know you're playing. I think a lot of the Black Sun decks are 12 card start at this point. So this, you can use you know don't do that again. The name of the dark side one escapes me, but and go get this and have a barrier basically in hand for the first turn when you move Shizor to a battleground site or whatever. So, any thoughts for I guess the group?
So before Reed gets into the playability and the strength of the card, I just want to point out a few things from a design perspective. Like you said, Brad, this is basically a pullable barrier. You can use Fanfare Shield to get it and kind of telegraph the play. It works with the Black Sun agent, so I know everyone probably thinks first off, like, okay, Black Sun, but actually Caesar, Guri, and the Vigo are all Black Sun agents by lore. They're the only characters that are Black Sun agents by lore. So if you're playing a Scum deck with any of those, this would work in there as well. Which is kind of a cool synergy if you're playing with Jabba's Haven to pull Now Hutta. Now Hutta can pull this as well. And then finally, you mentioned it's just a battle preventer, so they can still move away. But the cool synergy with Black Sun is that there's some little text on the 0 side of that objective that very few people remember, and that is that your bounty hunters can move in the control phase to same site as a bounty, which will work with this. So let's say you have Caesar's Palace set up, and they come down with Luke in front of Caesar, and you play this on them, and they think, man, I'm going to move away with Luke because I don't want to get beat down, and they've got like Fett or someone else with Caesar. You can actually move in the control phase over to the site where Luke moves away to, and try to use that to your advantage as well.
Interesting, very interesting. Yeah,
this is one of those cards that I kind of just glazed over. Like, it's a Black Sun card. I mean, yeah, you can use those three characters that Matt listed. You can use them in whatever deck you want, and then play this as well. It seems like you're going way out of your way. This card will definitely see play in Black Sun. It's just from looking at it from my perspective, it's just another trick that I have to hammer through. That I have to get through to kill Zyzer. It's something in my mind that I like players you'll have to keep this in mind when you're facing Agents of Black Sun. You'll have to know that, well, once I start bombing on his characters, whether it's Prince Zyzer or whether it's elsewhere, I'm going to have to get through this card. But then once you get through it, you get through it. The peek at opponent's hand thing, you can play the shield for that. If you just want to keep your hand guarded, you can shield against that. Lights out usually doesn't have a problem with.
Pretty sure the shield will just prevent them from removing cards from your hand, so they could still look at it. But you could always play the shocking information to make them lose 4 force.
Interesting. Let me while we're on sort of interactions and rules questions, if you play control in response to this, can your guy still battle? Is that sort of like controlling a sand whirl when it's deployed? Your guy doesn't go missing. Is that how that works?
Yeah, I believe so. So, okay. Yeah, I'm almost positive that's how it works.
Okay, so that's just
it's like a response to the card being played.
Okay, so that's maybe more just as you're building, the newest iteration of Throne Room or whatever. If there's a control tunnel vision as card 61, maybe it actually becomes card 60, just because there's, in addition to all its other uses, there's this corner case as well where it's functionally kind of a barrier canceller. Yeah, I mean, this card, there's not necessarily a ton to be said. Matt, you definitely had some good insight about those more subtle things. Now Hutta pulling it, the bounty hunter moving and stuff. So that's you just when you see a spoiler list and you look at the card title, you're like, Shizor's bounty, okay, whatever. but then you sort of you piece the stuff together, and then it's like, oh, okay, so actually there's this interaction or that interaction. So that's pretty neat. Yeah, with that, we've already covered any methods necessary, so we'll go ahead then and drop down to the Vader's tie, and this was the design the contest that Menzel and the advocates had put together with everyone submitted their stuff, and then the advocates like nominated their top 4 and the players voted. Is that how it worked, or was it the other way around where the players voted and then the advocates picked?
You're pretty right. So design and development narrowed it down to, I believe it was 4 finalists, and put those up for a vote, and this was the winning vote. And it had to go through regular development after that, and playtesting, and what it ended up changing was before it had weapon protection if it was with another tie, but because of the kind of playability of the deploy cost, you look at Vader's personal shuttle, which is the one thing that we need to compare this with. The shuttle has a big deploy bonus for Vader, and we found that without that deploy bonus on this, this just wasn't seen in play, despite the pretty strong text of canceling game text as an opponent to pilot. So we wanted to maintain the ability to use either Vader, and I think Space Vader, everyone would agree, is stronger. Now, we put the restriction on there to not use Space Vader because we felt Space Vader already does some pretty good stuff with it by subtracting from Battle Destinies, and we wanted to kind of encourage Math Vader to come back. And it's tough. We found that a lot of players were like, I don't know if this deploy bonus here even does enough for me, but we also found that whenever you got Vader on table in this thing in playtesting, is that he was avoided. People would run away from him. So for that reason, we didn't want to make the deploy bonus even better, despite players saying, I'm not sure if I'm going to run this, because if we did make the deploy bonus better, or maybe extend it to all Vaders, then I think we would have just seen lesser interaction than we would have preferred, because it's so big to be able to cancel the game text of someone. Like if you initiate against Dash Rendar, you can't draw Battle Destiny or subtract from your power. There's guys like Theory Net, if he were on a Starfighter, which most often he's probably on Home 1. In fact, that was the reason why we changed this to Starfighter instead of any pilot, because of Theory Net. We didn't want this to go into TTO, and all of a sudden they think they're Home 1 safe, and then you just blow it out with the super laser. So we put that in there to make it Starfighter. But there's a lot of things that you can do. We felt that it was pretty strong text, so we didn't want to make it automatic. But I think I foresee Reed probably going to say that the shuttle is still the way to go with this, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, no doubt about it. And it's funny that you should mention that you guys played around with having him cancel the game text of any pilot, because I think you would have been perfectly fine that way. And it's just another thing that players would have to play around. Like, okay, yeah, like I can have Theron Net on the Home 1 protecting him from the super laser against TTO. Well, it's just a matter of factoring in the possibility that the opponent might drop this Vader if the Vader did cancel game text of any pilot, a pilot on a capital ship also. That's a possibility that I have to factor in, that the opponent might drop this custom tie and then blow up my Home 1 with the super laser. And if I don't have any other defense against that, if he hits his destinies, if I don't have like keep your eyes open or something to keep any weapons from being fired, then I might be in trouble. But in that case, I just won't move. If I'm really that paranoid about it, I just won't move in front of the super laser. But with regards to the comparison of this card to the shuttle, it's pretty clear that this card, and you guys left all your contest participants in a real unenviable spot trying to design a card that, by design, it's going to only have one pilot slot and no room for passengers or anything. And at the end of the day, that's why the shuttle is going to be so good, because you can stack extra stuff on there for forfeit. You can just go and Emperor Palpatine on there for forfeit 9. You can do combos like Grand Moff Tarkin, virtual or otherwise. The new Boba Fett obviously is wonderful. This is the shuttle with a Vader on it is one of the few spots in the game where the aforementioned BFBH shines. If you have Dengar on your deck and you're facing Watcher Step, you can throw him on. There's umpteen possibilities you can throw on the shuttle, and you can't do that with the Vader's custom tie. When the contest first came out, I was like, maybe I'll come up with some ideas and either submit them or like give them to somebody else to submit. But I knew that in order for this card to see play over the shuttle, it was going to have to do something really outstanding and unique. And trying to get cards through the process, especially the player created card process, when they do something really outstanding and unique, is such a pain in the neck that I was like, it's not gonna be worth it in the long run. And I don't have any, like, I didn't sit there and come up with any ideas, but the canceling a game text of a guy at the same system, you make the point of, oh well, okay, if you cancel Dash Rendar's text, he doesn't draw Destiny. That's if it's a lone Dash Rendar on the Outrider. The Dash Rendar's, he sees play in Watch Your Step, and Watch Your Step adds a Destiny when they have two smugglers together, and usually Dash Rendar has somebody else in the ship with him. So sure, you're not going to get the power reduction. There are lots of cards in the game that counter Dash's power reduction, but they're still going to, if he has his two smugglers there, the opponent's going to have enough ability to draw Destiny, and then he'll add one with the objective, and he's still probably going to get his couple of BD. So like, I think the use cases that Matt, that you brought up, like we were just talking about, I think they're just a little too, like, you're not giving the opponent enough credit. Like, if he's leading Dash Rendar alone, then yeah, he's gonna get blown out. Or in the case that if this custom tie had canceled the game text of any pilot, if you're leaving your home one exposed to a potential super laser, you're leaving in front of the super laser, counting only on Theranet. Well, yeah, if the opponent has this Vader's custom tie, then he's going to get to blow you out with it if it worked against Capitals. So again, it's a little. I mean, this is a card that's. I think it could have been stronger. We could have gotten away with making this card stronger. But it's a player card. It's a contest card. And at the end of the day, it still has to battle the fact that it doesn't. It's simply not by design going to be allowed to have any passenger slots, and that's just a hurdle to overcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is that I actually do want to try this out in a lot of decks just because of the tie synergy. If I'm playing decks that have all power weapons in them, I'm going to be interested in trying this out in there just to give all your ships full immunity. Whereas if you had the Vader on Vader's personal shuttle, it wouldn't be full. I mean, it'd still be pretty high effective immunity, less than 7 with Space Vader. But I still kind of like the tie synergy, and I'm interested in trying it out personally.
Yeah.
Do we have any examples from playtesting of where this card has really been effective and really like blown somebody out by canceling? You know, I mean, you mentioned the Dash Rendar thing, but like I said, it just seems like such a weak example where Dash Rendar by himself, he gets blown out by a lot of things. But like, is there something like kind of hidden that like maybe it's not all that apparent that like, oh, I canceled that guy's game text and it was like a real huge deal in this battle? Did you see anything that?
No. So what stuck out most to me was the fact that I think almost all the time, Lightside was in a situation where they say, I don't want to mess with him, and they would just move away. I can't think of any specific cases without going back to look. But, you know, I think that was pretty telling to us that this Vader didn't see very many battles because Lightside didn't want to mess with him. Now, I can't tell you right now offhand what the specific pilots and what the cases were, but perhaps we can have that in the sequel edition of this roundtable. I can go back and do some research on that. But, you know, I do think it could be strong in a lot of situations. And I think I would just encourage people to try it out and see how it does in game situations for you.
Yeah, I'll just say maybe to kind of wrap this up, a couple things. Thematically, you know, him only impacting folks on Starfighters kind of fits from the standpoint of, you know, we really saw him using this, you know, at the end of A New Hope, you know, against other Starfighters. So there's that there. You know, much like Boba Fett, it's always good to see these sort of you know, memorable cards from days past maybe get a new life. It is. And this is just unfortunately where gameplay kind of trumps those types of you know, visuals and everything. But the fact that, you know, the virtual Premier Vader doesn't work all that well on his virtual tie. I mean, I guess he's all right, but he doesn't get the deploy bonus. It's a little odd. I'll be honest. I submitted something for the contest. I forget what it was. It wasn't too good. All things being equal. I was a bit concerned about the contest in general, and this is selfish, but just so that shuttle is Nate Meeker's world champ card, and I didn't want to see it become just obsolete or whatever. So, you know, I was thinking maybe there'd be a different direction somehow that they went with the tie, as opposed to just sort of a different Vader battling in space type of card. So there's some corner cases. We may with movies like Rogue One and stuff. There may be an increase in starfighters, I guess, and therefore sort of canceling the text on everyone on starfighters will be good. But I was hoping it would work on capitals. Not I know everyone sort of touched on the Theron Net home one type of stuff, super laser. Just more generally, it seems like every character that came out in the last year adds a Destiny, and then mains decks just sort of throw them all on home one or Tan of 4 or whatever. So canceling Hera's text or someone like that might have been interesting. But anyway, an interesting concept. Congrats to the contest winner. As far as that goes,
Winner was actually Troy, who's the creator of Gem.
Okay, great, Troy. Congrats. Big thanks to Menzel and all the advocates for setting up the contest. I know we sort of been critical of sort of the final iteration of the card itself, but definitely the idea behind the contest and even the sort of the concept on the card, I think is awesome and a good way to get folks sort of involved and excited about the game. So I'm definitely looking forward to more sort of marketing initiatives that may roll out in the coming year. So with
like I said, that was an unenviable task, Bradley, to virtualize that